Hi, welcome to the Football Fan Zone. It's our first ever episode. It's Friday the 13th. It's Brentford versus Arsenal on the opening game of the new Premier League season. Don't forget to click that like button, click subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll know when we release new videos. Let's get started. I guess the first place we should start is, who am I? My name is Ben and I'm a Chelsea fan, and like you, if you're watching this channel, I enjoy my football, whether it be Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, whatever league. I'm a football fan and this is my hobby. Right, let's get on with it. It's Brentford versus Arsenal, the opening game of the weekend. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of a review or preview, if you like. I'm going to give you my lineups. We're going to have a quick look at what both teams have done in the transfer markets, my predicted lineups, and of course my predicted score. So I guess we should start with Brentford being the home side. Let's have a look at their transfers in, their transfers out, and their pre-season results. Right, so I've taken a screenshot from transfermarket.com. And as you can see, Brentford have done a bit of business in the transfer window. They spent, according to transfermarket.com, 33 or just over 33 million quid. But you'll notice the age of these players here, 23, 24, 18, 20, etc. They've gone for the younger sort of players, which is interesting. Seems to me like they're not so much building for this season, but they're building a team for potentially future seasons as well. A lot of focus on the midfield area. I've actually got several midfielders in that lineup, both permanent transfers and players on loan. But yeah, that is the Brentford's transfers in. In terms of players going out, there's really very little going on there, really. Some free transfers and a loan, and that's pretty much it. They've basically received no money, but look at these players, ages 31, 33, 26, and of course the young lads going out for the goalkeeper going out on loan. But not a lot to report in terms of departures. In terms of pre-season results for Brentford, as you can see here, they've won away at Wimbledon, Bournemouth, and they drew at Man United, lost to West Ham, and then beat Valencia at home. Again, pre-seasons are notoriously difficult to determine a team's strengths and weaknesses based on that. But I think they'd be happy that it's pretty much gone quite smoothly. Doesn't seem to be any dramas. What you don't want in the pre-season is losing games, by silly score lines. And they've had a good few tests in there. The likes of Valencia, West Ham, and Man United really given them a little bit of a run around against teams of obviously good quality. So I think Brentford will be quietly confident and relatively happy with the way their pre-season preparations have gone, looking at their transfers in and their transfers out also. So this is my predicted Brentford XI. I think they'll go tried and tested with the back three, and of course a 3-5-2. I think they'll play the two at the front instead of a three. I've gone for 3-5-2 rather than 3-4-3 because I think they'll want to try and overwhelm Arsenal in midfield. Based on what I think Arsenal are going to play, which we'll come to in a minute, this would seem to me like perhaps the obvious choice for Brentford, and it certainly is a formation that Brentford know well. The manager has played this quite a lot last season. So that's my particular lineup anyway. Okay, looking at the Arsenal transfers in, of course the big signing, Ben White for 50. It's reported as 52.6. It's around about 50 to 52 million anyway. Lukongo and Tavares, the left back, and of course the likes of Koscielny, Guendouzi, Torreira and Saliba all back from their loan spells, with Guendouzi and Saliba both going back out. I think Guendouzi is actually on loan with the option to buy, although it's more like an obligation because I think it's like if Marseille don't get relegated or something like that, then they would be obliged to buy. So it's an option, but really it's an obligation. Okay, let's have a look at the transfers out. So again, like I said, Guendouzi and Saliba both going back out on loan to Marseille. Guendouzi is with the option / obligation to buy. I don't believe that's the case for Saliba. There was some confusion about that. And of course, they've got players like David Luiz who have now left the club. Odegaard and Ceballos have both gone back from their respective loan spells. And Matt Ryan has actually left. He went back to Brighton, obviously, he was on loan, but he's also been, instead of going back to Arsenal as a reserve goalkeeper, he's actually had an opportunity to go to Spain, which is where he's decided to go, which I don't blame him for. The opportunity to go and play first team football there rather than a backup at Arsenal, which I think Arsenal will be a little bit disappointed by, because I think he was a worthy backup. Okay, let's have a look at. Let's have a look at their pre-season results. Okay, so it's not been the best. It's a bit of an underwhelming pre-season, to say the least. They have won 2 games, but they were both on their training grounds at London Colney. The rest of the games they played, where they were stadium games, they lost lost 3 and drew 1. They've not had a particularly good pre-season. And certainly not in terms of results and whatnot. Again, I know it's not pre-season. You know, it's losing every game in pre-season. We've seen teams do that and go on and have an excellent season and so on. But I think, and I'll get to my point in a minute in this, but yeah, I'd be a little bit, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be a little bit disappointed with the way pre-season's gone. Okay, the Arsenal lineup. I think they're going to go for 4-2-3-1 essentially. So I think they'll play the 4 at the back: Chambers, Tierney, Marion, White. Obviously Gabriel's injured, as far as I'm aware. Saka and Lokonga as the 2 in the middle. Smith Rowe just in front of them. Saka on the left, Pepe on the right, and Aubameyang up front. Rumours are Lacazette's unwell, I think, from what I've heard. So I don't think he's going to be. He might not even be in the squad tonight, actually. So, yeah, so that's my lineup. I think it's a decent lineup, but there's obviously beyond that. There's not a great deal of quality beyond the starting 11, and I do think there are shortened errors, but we'll come on to that in a minute. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I'm going to go very slightly and almost reluctantly for 2-1 Arsenal, although I would not be surprised if Brentford got something out of the game. The reason I'm going for that result is because I think Arsenal have overall the little bit of extra quality needed, though I'm convinced that Mikel Arteta is getting the best out of that squad. I also think Arsenal have had a really underwhelming transfer window and pre-season in general. And like I said, I know the results during pre-season should be taken with a pinch of salt, and certainly, you know, to a certain extent, should not be considered as a even form going into the game, and which makes pre-season games, or certainly opening games, hard to predict because there's not really any competitive form which to place your predictions on. But when you consider at the end of last season, having finished 8th out of Europe for the first time in over 2 decades, and the promises made by Arsenal were there was going to be a clear out, there were going to be players coming out so they can make way for new hungry players coming in, but they had very little representation in terms of the rest of the Big Six at the European Championships and in Copa America. And so on the 3rd of July, when all of Arsenal reported back for pre-season training, there wasn't actually that many players that they were missing, and certainly the ones that were due back relatively soon after. I think Saka's really the only player that arrived fairly late back, obviously going with England all the way to the final of the Euros. But it was a good opportunity for Arsenal and Arteta to get transfers done, get pre-season going well, and going to the season ahead of their rivals, having transfers done. Most of their squad together for almost all of pre-season. And instead, what have they got? They've virtually lost 3 of the 4 stadium played games in pre-season. They've made 3 transfers, one of which is the first team, 2 you would argue are backup. Certainly in terms of their left back and the midfield, Partey is obviously going to be starting alongside Xhaka on the first choice 11, and Tierney's going to be starting left back in the first choice 11. So they've got backup players and a defender. They've added no one to their attack, and actually they've lost the likes of Ceballos and Odegaard, which means they're less. In fact, they probably even they've got less quality at the front end of the pitch now than what they did at the end of last season. At the end of last season, don't forget they finished 8th. So I'm not entirely sure what Arsenal are going to do over the next couple of weeks, but they do need a win, I think. And I think players like Aubameyang can, in a tight game, which is what it could be, could just about nick it. I think Arsenal, what they really need to do in this game is that it's not just about getting the result for Arteta. You can scrape a controversial or a soft penalty 1-0 win away at Brentford, and it might take a bit of pressure off, but it would only paper over cracks. I think Arsenal really need a performance. Not just it's not about, and the performance isn't just a case of going and winning 2 or 3-0, but they need a game where they've gone away from home, they've had some pressure, they've held their own, and they've controlled the game, and that's what I think Arsenal really needs to do. In terms of Brentford, they look like a good side. They're going to go for it. This is the opening game in the Premier League season, the first ever game in the Premier League. Arsenal at home, London derby. If you're going to make history in a game like today, your first game in the Premier League, beating Arsenal, what a game that would be to do it. Brentford are going to be right up for this, and I think it's going to be a really good game to watch. I'll be watching it as a neutral, obviously. And being a Chelsea fan, it doesn't matter which team we win, to be honest. Okay, maybe slightly edging towards Brentford with my heart, but my head says Arsenal. I'll go just about nick it. That'll be a good game to watch. Don't forget to click the like button if you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Who's going to win tonight, Arsenal or Brentford? Let me know what your thoughts are on the matches coming up ahead this weekend. I'll do a preview tomorrow morning on those games as well. And hopefully I'll see you all on the next one.